Today's podcast is sponsored by Agorapulse. Stay tuned for more details in this episode.
Today, we have the pleasure of welcoming Nathan Gotch to our show. A name synonymous with the mastery and innovation of the world of SEO. With over a decade of hands-on experience, Nathan is not just an SEO professional, he's a trailblazer who has shaped the digital marketing landscape. He is the brains behind the #1 SEO training program for agencies, Gotch SEO Academy, and the author of the groundbreaking book, The SEO Entrepreneur. His insights and methodologies have been featured on leading platforms like SEMrush, Ahrefs, and Search Engine Journal, making him a sought-after authority in the industry. Nathan's journey is a testament to the perseverance and entrepreneurial spirit. Starting in 2011 with humble attempts at making money online, he quickly pivoted upon discovering SEO, which led to the creation of his first website. Nathan founded Gotch SEO and built an SEO empire, turning Gotch SEO into a 7-figure business. And Nathan's knack for creating impactful content is evident from his success on his YouTube channel as well, where he's amassed over 85,000 subscribers and 3 million views, not to mention significant followings on Twitter and LinkedIn. Nathan's story is not just about SEO, it's about transforming failures into stepping stones for success. It's about the relentless pursuit of excellence and the impact of sharing knowledge. Internet, please welcome Nathan Gotch.
Nathan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so super excited to talk about my little topic here. It's actually a big topic, but I'm going to try to condense it into about 10 minutes here. So my topic for today is why you need to build a brand and why it's more important than ever for SEO. But it's also definitely important for your business as well, but specifically to support your SEO initiatives. And there's a lot of kind of elements to this. The first is just diversification. Let's face it, I mean, SEO is getting harder than ever. I mean, when we look across how SEO has been over the years, it just keeps getting more difficult. There's more moving parts. It's harder to diagnose algorithm updates. Like the waters have been muddied and it's very, very difficult. And just to put in perspective for people that are newer to SEO, let's say in the last 5 years or so, when I was starting in 2011, I'm telling you, when I say it was easy, it was stupidly easy. I mean, I could pick a keyword, I could slap up some silly little page with a title, one sentence, a video from YouTube, and an outbound link to Wikipedia, and I could rank that page just by slamming it with private blog network links. Now, and on top of it, they would rank within about 30 days. And this is for like relatively competitive keywords. These days, very, very different. If you try to play that game, the only people that could probably get away with that would be like Forbes or some massive authority. Maybe they could get away with something ridiculous. But for the average person, the rest of us, not a good strategy. So, and so the reason I'm saying that is just because I think some people are still kind of in the past as far as what it takes. I'm not sure I understand. There goes my watch. But I think some people are still in the past of their expectations of SEO and how much work goes into it. Because it was so easy, I think some people have been anchored that, it's going to be, we're going to rank in 2 months or 3 months. And the way that I'm thinking about now is like, what's the SEO strategy for the rest of your life? Like, as long as your business wants to survive, like that's the way we should be thinking. We shouldn't be thinking in terms of, where are we going to be at in 3 months? So you should be like, no, like SEO is just a thing that we do permanently as long as we're in business or we get acquired, right? Like that's just the type of thing. So, but a part of that is that because it's so difficult and because there's things constantly changing and because we all know AI, there is a high probability that just overall organic CTR will decrease.
Sure.
I just think it's going to happen across the board.
Totally agree.
Yeah. And I think if you don't expect that, you're probably not really paying attention because Google absolutely wants to be able to just answer questions without going to our websites.
Yep.
And they're going to have to change their monetization model, whatever they're going to do. But I know they're thinking like, we're all playing checkers, they're playing chess. And they're thinking about how they can survive this, this new world. And I think that it's going to get clicks are going to get eaten up. So you need to expect that, you need to prepare for it, and you need to prepare that you're going to get less traffic, even if you rank well. And that's kind of the situation. So don't be 100% reliant on SEO is my point. Like you need to start to build a brand. And
Oh yeah, Nathan, I'll tell you just, I've been watching that forever, and I have an article and a deck that has an image where in one chart I show my rankings over time for the primary key phrase, which stays number 1 or number 2 for like 5 years. In the next chart down, it shows the click-through rate for that URL, which drops 75%. And on the third chart, literally I line them up so you can see the dates in line. On the third chart, you see total traffic, which crashes. You can rank number 1 for a phrase for years and watch just watch the traffic fall and fall and fall.
Right.
So it's click-through rates.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing is too, even with like, back in the day, you used to be like, try to get on the first page of Google. The first page of Google is not the first, like it doesn't mean anything anymore. Being in the top 10 is basically like, if you're number 9, you might as well be number 50 in a lot of SERPs. I mean, it's so different now. And basically, if you're going to do SEO, you basically have to aim for top 3. I mean, if you're not top 3, you're just, the CTR is like, you're fighting for scraps. So it's really, really tough. So that's why I'm just saying, like, as far as expectations with SEO, we need to kind of tone it down a little bit and realize this is going to take a lot of effort, and honestly, it's going to take a bigger investment. I know that's rich coming from a person who does SEO and sells SEO stuff and telling you to invest more in it, but it's just a
bigger
fact.
Effort.
It's more difficult. Yep. It's probably, out of all the channels that you could do these days, is probably the most difficult. I really do believe that. I mean, and I do all these channels. I do YouTube, I do email marketing, I do Twitter or X and LinkedIn. Like, they're way easier. like if I was starting today, maybe I'd tell people like, yeah, maybe just do like email newsletters or something. So the point is just much more difficult. So that's why it's more important than ever that we're building brand outside of just relying on organic search, because it should just be one among many things that you're doing. And the other part of it is kind of like a secondary effect of doing that, which I've witnessed in my own business. So when I'm looking at where conversions come from, it's really hard to get proper attribution. So what will happen is, like, I will publish a video on YouTube, okay, and I'll get views there, but then I'll get leads that are attributed to Google. But I know that what happened actually is that I published a video on YouTube and someone, hey, that was pretty helpful. Who's this Nathan guy? And they search on Google, and then that gets attributed as a conversion from Google, even though I know that the original source was YouTube, right? So this is showing that, like, there's no longer like this kind of like singular type of effort going on. There's a lot of, just the way people convert these days is erratic. It's very difficult to even track. I mean, someone could watch a YouTube video of mine, not convert for 6 months, see a tweet of mine, and then maybe like, oh yeah, I remember that, and then ignore me for another 6 months. And then see a LinkedIn post, and then go to Google, and then it gets attributed to Google. Yep. Right? Like, so it's just very, very difficult to track. And so the reason I'm saying that is because the beauty of building content on other platforms is we can drive branded searches. And branded searches, there's a lot of debate on whether they're ranking factors or not. I lean towards it not being a ranking factor just because it could be manipulated so easily. But I think it's more of the secondary effect, like if someone watches a YouTube, let's say I watch a lot of YouTube content of mine, and they consume a lot of my content in other platforms. When I create something on my blog, on the website, they're more likely to view that from a different lens, right? They already trust me, they know me, so they're going to view that through a different lens, and maybe that leads to them sharing that asset on my website, on the platforms. Maybe they have their own blog and they link to that asset. So now it's created all these kind of like secondary effects that were all caused from the original source of a different platform. So that's just kind of the way I think about it as far as diversification. And then do I still have enough time? I got one more point here. Am I still good? This is along the lines of just don't create content for SEO. And this is a little weird one because I think for many, many years, people have pushed this idea that like basically any website content you create should have an SEO objective. Like it needs to be keyword targeted. It needs to rank. And like, what if you like created a blog and SEO didn't exist? Right. Like what would you do? You'd say, well, I need to create content for my ideal customers. I need to create content that helps build my authority and my expertise, you'd be thinking about that. And you'd be thinking like, I'm going to create something really cool. Like I want to create something really cool that people want to share and people want to link to. You wouldn't be like, is this targeting a specific keyword? Like it needs to target a keyword, otherwise I'm not going to publish it. Like I have these conversations in the academy all the time, and someone's like, oh, I have this great idea for this like piece of link bait, but I can't find a keyword for it. And I'm like, why do you need to find a keyword for it? Like it just, if it's valuable, create it. Like don't worry about SEO. So for me, what I've basically deployed, and I've actually talked about this for a few years, which is just a classic 80-20 rule on this. So if SEO is very important, 80% of your content should probably target some type of keyword phrase, some sort of topic, idea, whatever it is. The other 20% is where you have fun, like content marketing driven assets, assets that can actually attract links. Those could be tools, free software, whatever it is. Could be controversial type of things as well. So just anything that's really designed for content marketing is at like that 20%. And ironically, that 20% will probably drive most of your authority, which is where the fun happens. So that's just where I try to think about is like stop focusing so much on transactional driven type of assets. And like Seth Godin has proven this. If you go and look at Seth Godin's link profile, it's so insane. And he doesn't care about SEO.
That's right.
He doesn't care about SEO at all. And he's got like a DR81. So, yep. And that's all because he is focusing on just content marketing. He's just doing his own thing in his own unique way, and people want to link to it. So, anyway, that's my rant for the day. So, yeah.
I like it. Well, I'll tell you a funny story about how I found you, Nathan, is that so all three of us are contributors to SEMrush. And so I did an academy presentation and thought it went well. And then I asked to do another one and I presented it and I was like super excited. And then they're like, well, I can't have you do that. There's another guy who actually did the same exact presentation you did. And then I like looked it up. I was like, who is this guy? And then I started watching your stuff. I was like, he's pretty freaking smart.
That's nice.
Yeah. So like at first I hated your guts. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, well, I get that. Yeah.
No, literally at first you got there first. And I just remember just being like, who is this guy? And then I started asking other SEOs that I know and they were like, hey, take his course too. And so we have a continuing education thing that we put our budget as an agency, we put a budget towards, and fortunately, I got the last say, and so yours was one of the ones that I picked for this year, and so we've been going through it. It's really cool. It's really cool.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Let me talk to you a little bit about one of your comments about attribution. We had Rand Fishkin on, I guess, a couple of weeks ago, Andy? Was it?
Yep.
About a month ago, yeah. And he was talking about like the Wanamaker paradox of like, are you familiar with, like, he says, like, I have 50% of my marketing and advertising works. I just don't know which 50%. And but you're finding this in a lot of marketing now. Like what I mean by that is that a lot of social media, as soon as you put an outbound link, it's going to, your visibility is going to drop. SEO is getting harder to do. There's just a lot of things that are going to be related to, from a cookie standpoint, we're going to be in a cookieless future. There's just a lot of things where it's going to really make it harder for marketers. And Andy and I had this joke when this was, maybe about a year ago. And it's like, you're going to watch the real marketers are really going to shine. And the ones who have made so much of their money off of, hey, let's find keywords that have high visibility, but low competition. Like that real estate is going to be gone. And there's going to be a lot of marketing companies that existed purely on that phenomenon. And I think in a world of a tsunami of synthetic content, there's going to be less and less and less of that real estate to be had. And I think SGE is going to take a big bite out of it too. So
yeah, I think that was your quote was, okay, we have to do thought leadership, but for real this time.
Exactly. Right?
So is it, in a way though, what Rand was saying and what we can all sort of feel is that it's sort of like just going back to the basics prior to digital. Like it's, think about greats, like other people we've had on this show. I mean, Jay Baer wrote a book about word of mouth marketing. Talk triggers. Anybody working on that? Mark Schaefer just did a book about community, belonging to the brand. Anybody working on that? If you've built a community, algorithm changes are irrelevant to you because you go into Slack and there's like 600 people there who love you and your content. You post a link. There's no algorithm that's penalizing that. You've got a community. You're sort of safe. The word of mouth stuff, same thing. Like if you're top of mind, So who's trying to make something that's memorable? Like, oh, I want to do something that attracts links or that ranks or that gets shared. Here's a metric. There's no metric for it. That's why it's called the availability heuristic. We overvalue things we can see. There is no metric for memorability. But when I write prompts in AI, I'm like, create a headline for this article or a profile for this LinkedIn page or an opening paragraph for this whatever, and make it memorable. That's an awesome word to throw into a prompt. It's an awesome virtue to try to live by. Like, what is a brand? You got to stay in someone's mind, right? So I think that's it's super familiar. If you were asleep for 40 years and woke up, you'd be totally ready to do good marketing right now because you don't pay any attention to algorithms. I agree, Nathan. It drives me nuts. People are so obsessed with search. We do web development. Teach people search. Okay, working on the sitemap. And people start asking these weird questions like, what phrase should I target on my about page? What? Wait. You want to target a key phrase on your about page? What phrase do you think that might rank for? Like, it doesn't really make sense. It doesn't make sense. They're just obsessed with search. They forgot, they lost their minds. They forgot about every other channel. So yeah, Chris, your line about we got to do thought leadership. Post a strong opinion. ChatGPT can't do that. It has no opinions, right? We say ChatGPT can't throw a punch. Take a stand. Take a stand. You're automatically different, right? You're instantly differentiated. There's no keyword for it because it's strong opinion content, but not usually a keyword opportunity. But I think that's you're making an excellent point. Same thing Rand said and Jay said and Mark said and so many of the teachers I love. They're focused on things that go beyond the algorithm, and they're kind of immune to changes in Google and LinkedIn and wherever.
Yeah, and I personally think it's easier than ever. That's kind of the crazy part, is that because everyone has, the pendulum has swung so far to people to what's easy, right? It's easy to, anyone can open up ChatGPT. Like, for example, my family last night, we were struggling with our Thanksgiving Eve menu. Or sorry, Christmas Eve menu. And we were just struggling for an hour. What should we eat? We want to change it up. We eat the same stuff every year. And I was like, why don't we just go into ChatGPT and see what it gives us? And within seconds, we got a nice menu laid out for us. When I went through that experience, I even thought about wow, my job is in jeopardy. Because even just thinking about the fact that I did that, I didn't go to Google. I went to ChatGPT and asked, give me some ideas here. And if you've had any experience on recipe websites or food blogs, it is torture. I mean, it's literally torture. You're going in just to get a recipe for some chicken recipe. You got to scroll through their life story. Then you got to get past 50,000 ads. Then eventually you'll maybe find the recipe. And it's just, the experience is awful. And that's all because of SEO.
Notifications, pop-up windows, accept cookies. Do you want to log in? The mobile experience especially is just horrible.
Yes, exactly. So
that's the joke that Andy used to be like, you have to get past grandma's 100-year-old recipe, and you're like, dude, I just want the ingredients.
And this all stems back from people wanting to do pure SEO strategies. I'm only going to do it if it's going to help my SEO. I'm only going to do it if it's got a keyword. It's just, that worked for a long time, but I think those days have finally gone away. And I think these days, especially Google, they just introduced that new schema for profile pages and forum discussions. This is Google trying to swing back to human-driven content, in my opinion, right? I think, the experience, the first E in Google's EAT guidelines, I think is just becoming more important. And I even think that even for keywords that's you would believe to be more of an objective type of keyword that would need objective type of content, I think even then Google's probably going to start to look okay, there's some opinions in here, some subjective elements in here that signify that this person actually knows what they're talking about. And I don't know how Google can really do that at this point. I don't know if it's that advanced where it can, I know with NLP technology, it can kind of decipher what's going on to a certain extent, but that's up for debate as far as how far it can go. But I definitely think that when you look at a lot of content that does perform well, and I did a very deep study on the experience side of Google EAT, and I looked at a bunch of assets, and the ones that had a lot of first person in it did really well. So I don't know if Google has that, kind of built in there for some queries. If you look up the best pizza, a lot of the ones that are ranking are like, I tried 75 different pizzas, or, and that's also what works on YouTube. Like if you look on YouTube, a lot of the stuff where it's review-based content is like, I bought 100 laptops. Here's the best one. Like it's always that type of like experimental type of content that does really well. And of course, Google's using what's happening on YouTube to inform search. There's no way that they're not blending those things together. So, and plus the last thing is with Reddit and Quora getting such a huge boost after the last updates. I mean, they're literally telling us, like they're telling us what they're looking for by doing that. So I think making some adjustments there would probably be wise.
Yeah. It's almost like just focusing specifically on the first two E's of the EEAT. You know what I mean? Like if Google can basically pick that out, and I didn't think about like even changing the tone of voice to first person for certain paragraphs might be just enough of a language signal that, I mean, that's really smart. I didn't think about it like that.
Well, it might also be attributable to the user interaction signals. If a visitor lands on a page and that page is talking to them first person, about themselves, their personal experience, that visitor may be more likely to engage, scroll down, dig deeper, click on a link, stay in higher dwell time. Maybe it's just that content is instantly differentiated because it's more personal, and that difference makes people more engaged, sending that dwell time and user interaction signals into Google. But either way, I love what you said, Nathan, about like, what if there was no Google? That's also what works in social. That's what works in analytics, just on engagement metrics. That's what works in like word of mouth and thought leadership, and like having a point of view, being a person with a perspective. Set Google aside completely and ask what you would do. You'd do that. You'd tell a story. You'd connect with a visitor on a human level. Like you'd be kind of like P2P type dialogue and tone. It's just, and that's also going to help you differentiate in the future from AI-driven content, because that's not really what people are generating from AI. Although you would know better than me. You've got some great background in AI-driven generated content. I'll let you take that.
Yeah, I mean, I've been having a lot of fun with AI content for a while now. And before the call, we were talking about the different methods we can use. And I have stuff that's still ranking prior to ChatGPT coming out when I was using Jasper. And just so you guys know, like the difference is like with Jasper, at least when I was using it, and I feel really bad for Jasper, by the way. I mean, they were really killing it there right before ChatGPT. They were at the top of the world, and then ChatGPT launched. And I just know for a fact that they felt the pain of that. I know people went right into Jasper, canceled their membership. Like it just was probably a devastating experience. So I feel bad in that regard. But prior to that, it was the thing you would use, really. There were a lot of other ones, but that was the one. So it was actually using GPT-3 at that time. And like I said, I still have content written by GPT-3 that's still ranking. So people might think that Google can like understand AI content, or they're going to penalize AI content. Hard to say. I think one thing that you mentioned, Andy, that I think is really important is, I mentioned that like, okay, maybe they're able to kind of measure the experience based on kind of the words that are on on the actual page. But I would actually argue what you're saying is more correct, which is it's really a secondary type of thing. That's the leading signal is the user signals that are the product of the first person type of content. And so I absolutely agree. Because one thing I've been talking a lot about recently and just thinking about in general is like, I feel like for a long time, the last couple of years, people have been creating SEO driven content algorithm first. So they think about the algorithm first. They think about, okay, I'm going to go into Surfer and I'm going to extract the titles and the headlines and the NLP keywords, and I'm going to build it like that. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? You're modeling what works. Nothing inherently wrong with that. But the problem is you're leading with the algorithm first instead of leading with, is someone going to like this? Is someone going to engage with this? Yeah. Is someone going to link to this? And thinking about, because like what I've realized is, and I should have realized this earlier, but now it's kind of all coming together now, which is like Google's just a lagging type of algorithm, right? Like if Google doesn't have any inputs, it doesn't do anything. It needs input. So like it begins with the content, but then once that content gets indexed, Google's looking at a lot of other things to determine if that page should rank, right? And it doesn't have the ability to look at the content and say, this is great content. Andy produced it, must be good. It's not the way it works, right? And in fact, even now with their, that antitrust case that they're currently going through, they literally said that they pretend to know the content. Like they don't even actually know the quality of it at all. And so what they're doing is they're obviously looking at user signals. Where they grab those user signals, obviously that's up for debate. Like, are they using Google Chrome? Are they using obviously CTR data in the search? I think everyone's just kind of hypothesizing about what they actually use. But that's one element. And then also the more lagging metric is going to be on the link side. And so if that, which continues to be one of the biggest ranking factors. So for me, I've just been so focused on user experience because I just think it matters so much. And that's why I've been trying to advise everyone, because we can't really see what Google's going to give us. You can go into GA4 and they add that metric, the engagement rate metric.
Sure, yeah.
I think it's awesome.
Me too.
Because
I love that
because you can integrate it within Screaming Frog, and when you do your crawl, you can look at the engagement rate on every single page. And if you go and I've done this correlation many times, you see okay, has no links, it has bad engagement, it has low word count, and it's deep in the site architecture. It's got a lot of issues you can typically see. And I've actually looked at some pages and it will have low engagement rate, and we go and actually improve that engagement. First, you need to make sure you have a tool like Hotjar or Mouseflow or some sort of UX tracking. And then you can really just see the data, how are people engaging with these? And I'm telling you, every time I look at the low engagement rate and I cross-check with one of those UX tracking, it makes sense. I'm like, oh, that page does suck. So we need to do something about that. So it's just, that's kind of where my mind's been recently, just really focused on how do we make the page better? And sometimes it's not huge monumental changes. Sometimes it's just let's rework the intro a little bit. Let's make it more, let's get some hooks in here that can get people to want to actually consume this content, as opposed to just here's the keyword that we want to rank for. And, here's the H2 that has the keyword in it. Just that kind of robotic way of creating content needs to just hopefully die off. So
for users and listeners who aren't familiar with engagement, an engaged session is a session that is more than 10 seconds, more than 2 pages, or had a conversion event. So it's similar to bounce rate. It's kind of the inverse of bounce rate. And what I tell people, if you want to improve engagement on a page, focus on short paragraphs, lots of bullet lists, an image at every scroll depth, maybe a video high on the page, and then make those H2s, forget about keywords for a minute and throw some punches. Don't soften all your language. Be more direct, be a bit provocative and write in a bold way, Anne would say, right? Another former guest.
Yeah. Yep.
Chris, you were saying?
I think, yeah, well, I think one of the things that I think is kind of killing two birds with one stone that sort of marries what you both said was, what I always notice is that you could always remember after COVID, literally half the blogs you would read would start out in these unprecedented times. Oh. And I'm just dude, will you get to it? You know what I mean? It's kill me now, right? Right. But one of the things that you can do is you can literally start out your paragraphs with case study based information. That's I looked at 300 websites, and it doesn't even have to be a case study you made. I do this all the time, and this is right out of your 1% content strategy is you want to know how to do this? This is real quick Cliff Notes. Get a VA or get yourself, take the top 20 manufacturers. Say you study manufacturers. Find the top 20 manufacturers. How many of them have a drop-down menu? How many of them have a hero bar? How many have a video above the fold? Find 8 different factors and just say, I studied the top 20 and this is what I got. And it's all first person point of view. It's all case study, and it all starts out with value right at the top of the page, right? As opposed to just dripping it in. You're dude, people are going to leave right out of the gate. You personally don't have to have done all this research yourself. Literally it's so easy. It's like a layup and it's right there, but we just drag our feet to get to it. Hey, I'm just sorry to end my own thought here with another thought. I'm just looking at the time here. I hope you're enjoying today's podcast. Now, please take a moment to hear a word from our sponsor.
Hey, everybody, this is Rich Brooks of the Agents of Change Digital Marketing Summit, a 3-day, 30-speaker event that you cannot afford to miss if you love digital marketing. You can go to theagentsofchange.com to register. It is free to attend. We do have some great VIP upgrades if you're interested, but I will see you at the summit.
Let's pivot real quick. Mine's going to be short, Andy, so why don't you go first, and then I'll try to fill in mine at the end.
Well, mine's short too. This is an observation. It's about AI because that's a recurring theme on this show. I have done several little exercises recently. One was giving AI my LinkedIn data and having it write charts and do analysis and summarize my LinkedIn content strategy. I have a LinkedIn newsletter. I'm really active there. But the just death march, brute force effort of getting unstructured data into a spreadsheet that AI could analyze, lots of work. Theme, AI training is low skill, high time. Next example, I decided I'm doing an article about AI for LinkedIn. Headshots. You pick one of these tools to make headshots for you. They're incredible. Like all the quality is fantastic, but you got to give them like 30 high quality headshots. Recurring theme. You need training data it always wants more than you think. Another example, this probably segues into yours, Chris, like that custom GPT idea. Oh, I'll make a digital twin for myself. This will be great. Oh, I got to upload files. Okay, I got to give it some articles. I got to move 300 articles into Word documents and then upload them and transcribe 25 videos and upload the transcripts. And it needs way more data than you think. AI is 90% boring brute force training effort, low skill, and 10% clever prompt. It's like it needs a lot more than you think it needs if you want to get a good outcome. Hey, it can't write headlines. Yeah, because you didn't give it 65 headlines. Oh, it's bad at writing opening paragraphs. How many did you give it? You got to train it. It's not going to write in your brand voice. It's not going to give you data insights. It's not going to make you a beautiful headshot unless you give it like 10x what you thought you had to give it. So my observation recently is like training is just mind-numbing, getting all of your stuff together, but it's worth it if you're trying to get an outcome.
Wow. You just made me think, and I never even thought to do this, but you could go into BuzzSumo, put in the keyword you're looking for, copy out the SERP, basically the SERP headlines for the top 50 articles, and be like, these are the top 50 headlines for this keyword. Now write me a good headline. You know what I mean? As opposed to it making it from the ether. You could probably train it on, hey, these are the 50 that are winning. Now what do you say? That's very interesting. But yeah, I hear you loud and clear on it's not even garbage in. Yeah, it's not even garbage in, garbage out. It's like you got to put a lot of quality in. It's like when you like squeeze a lemon, right? Like you think you're gonna get a lemonade from like one lemon. It's like, dude, you're gonna get dropped from the
there are no universes in which like a single sentence will give you like, let you quit your job. That just doesn't. It's not a thing. There's export buttons everywhere, and I get excited when I see an export button. But maybe half the tools allow you to export data in a way that's structured and AI friendly. Google Analytics, it's got 9 rows of comments. You got to delete that. LinkedIn, it makes 2 weird columns of like this one's got engagement, that one's got impressions. Like there's lots of these SEMrush, like BuzzSumo. Anytime you see MarketMuse, anytime you see an export button, that's exciting. But open that file, you might have an hour or more of work, copying and pasting, moving things around before you can give it to AI and reliably get really interesting insights. But it's worth it. I honestly believe it's worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that we're probably pretty close where these tools are going to start to just direct API and have done that cleanup work already. I mean, if they're smart, you know what I mean? That rather than trying to beat them, they're like our software plus ChatGPT. I mean, think about the technology roadmap that they don't have to do to build those internal tools into the back of their SaaS platform, if they're willing to play nice. But who knows? I mean, I haven't researched the value of it.
The other upside there, it's like Accio. Yeah. It's like there's tools. The other upside there is that it's real time and you can just look at it anytime. I'm doing it batch and manual with this data, data massaging process. But the data, the insights, I can literally tell you right now which topics that I talk about on LinkedIn lead to follower growth the fastest. There's no metric for that. There's no analysis. That's like a very difficult thing to do because follower growth is per day. But it maps the days together with the date of posts, analyzes the post to show which posts are on which topics, and then draws a chart showing which topics lead to follower growth the fastest. That's like not a thing. There's no tool that does that, but AI will do it for you if you spend an hour and a half fixing up a spreadsheet.
Yeah. Thoughts, Nathan?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, I've been saying this for a long time that I think the data side of ChatGPT is the best part. Actually,
Yeah.
That's number one, and then number two is the coding. So those two, yeah, you can have it create content for you. That's all great, but those two parts for me is like I get so much out of it. And like, for example, we just talked about earlier about how Google just launched a new schema markup for profiles and the forum or Q&A. Well, what I did today is I went to the new page on Google. Sorry, my house is a zoo right now. Kids are home. So went to the page, and what I do is I pretend like I'm going to print the page, but then I actually save it as a PDF, put it on my desktop. I upload that PDF to ChatGPT, and I say, hey, create me a schema, and I give it the prompt based on my specific situation, and it immediately creates the schema markup. So I don't need to go and learn everything about this schema. I just go in there, it gives me what I need. Then I can go and cross-check that schema with the tester tools, make sure it's working. And then on my side, it's really easy because I use Generate Press, so I can just go and put a little element in, implement that. So that means on the same day, less than 24 hours, I can implement this new thing like in seconds from ChatGPT. I mean, sometimes I think about, I'm like, man, this would have taken me so much longer because I would have had to study it. I would have had to talk to a developer, and then it just would have been very difficult. And now the speed at which you can implement new things as far as SEO is faster than ever. And there's a lot of other things as well, like with to hire a data scientist. I think you guys are both aware, like to hire a real data scientist, we're talking $100 an hour, sometimes $150,000 a year.
Yeah.
I mean, they are expensive. They're a very expensive job. And now you can get one for $20 a month. So
I know.
If you know how to prompt it.
If you know how to prompt it,
yeah.
yes.
I was showing Chris earlier some of the prompts I've done, and it's like, using TF-IDF analysis, blah, blah, blah. No one thinks to do that, right? An SEO might, but term frequency, inverse document frequency, it doesn't roll off the tongue for your typical marketer, or even another one that comes from SEO. Like I'll give it like a bunch of content and say, perform semantic distance analysis to find subtopics that have never been covered in this data set. That's like a data scientist perspective. It's like a statistician perspective, which most people maybe don't have. But if you know the prompt, like you can, it's a fantastic research assistant. It's like it turns people into like mini data scientists.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because I've gone back and forth with it a few times on different data projects. And as I went back and forth with it, I realized like I was learning things about data science by asking it things.
Yeah.
Because it would respond to me and it'd be like, well, no, actually, Nathan, your logic is wrong. It didn't say Nathan, but like basically it's your logic is wrong, right? And I was like, oh, you're right. Well, why is my logic wrong? And then you just keep going back and forth, and eventually I'm like, wow, I just learned a lot from that whole experience. It was even like the one I discussed earlier about our H1 tags ranking factor. And according to the data, of course, when you look, most of the top ranking results have the keyword in the H1 tag. So like if you look at that, you might say, well, H1 tags must be a ranking factor, but it's not so simple, right? And so you can look at like, just because everyone has an H1 tag does not mean that it's a ranking factor.
Right.
And so you start to get in the weeds with it, but then that's the beauty of these tools is like, within seconds, we can get these insights that would have taken like me having to go back and forth with the data scientists and, us getting into it, trying to debate it. And instead I just like in seconds can get these insights that are just at lightning speed, which is just so powerful. So
That's cool.
Yeah, we got to train ourselves to be a bit more, to think like statisticians.
Yeah.
You're going to have better results doing AI-driven analysis, which is, Nathan just said, I totally agree, one of the best use cases for AI. If you learn to, or have AI help you learn to do some data analysis type thinking, like statistics, like look for correlation, how to ask it to find correlations, and to, run methods that are not normal for marketers. Maybe you don't really have to learn the method, but you have to learn the context. Like another one, I was asking it, which 3-word trigrams are overrepresented in the LinkedIn posts that had the greatest engagements. That's like not natural thinking maybe for most marketers, but if you're like using R, the stats programming language, that's how you think. And if you just ask it like what words are overrepresented in the top performing posts, it'll give you something. But if you ask it what 3-word trigrams, you'll begin to find themes. So what is the skill involved? For the prompter, it's to really think like a bit like a statistician. So, or just steal them from us, because I'd encourage all of you to prompt AI to have it do semantic distance analysis and TF-IDF analysis and look for 3-word trigrams. Those are the prompts.
Yeah, well, and not to interrupt, just to add one more point to that, Chris, is one thing that's helped me a ton is also there'll be situations where I don't actually even know the terminology of something. And I will explain the scenario to ChatGPT, and it'll be like, oh yeah, that's regex. You need to use regex, right? And like, although I know what regex is, in that unique scenario, I didn't know that could be applied in that one scenario. So then once I knew the terminology, then I could fix the problem. So like in the case of, I rebuilt like all of my templates for my SEO campaigns, like inside the Academy, and I used ChatGPT to help me build a lot of the formulas. So I'd go back and forth. It would help me build all these just incredible Google Sheets formulas that I never could do before, because I'm not like a great Google Sheets guy. So, but like now I'm pro level thanks to ChatGPT now. So, and the funny thing is like my favorite part is you build out these formulas, you go and test on the Google Sheets and it's like broken, it doesn't work. You're like, okay, then you go back, you're like, hey, by the way, that didn't work. And then you repeat it. And you can go back and forth and eventually it's perfect. And it's not this type of thing where it's like, just put the prompt in and it does all the work for you. You just have to treat it like it's a team member, and you just go back and forth and you keep working with it until you get to the outcome. And once again, wouldn't have been possible even a year ago to do such things. I mean, it would cost you a lot of money to do it. So, and a lot of time. So, yeah.
I hope you're enjoying today's podcast. Now, please take a moment to hear a word from our sponsor.
This is an amazing podcast on marketing, but what if you're trying to figure out how to actually grow and scale your agency? For struggling agency owners, there aren't as many resources available, and there certainly aren't many places you can turn to benefit from the experiences of other successful agency owners. That's where Social Pulse Podcast Agency Edition comes in. I'm award-winning marketer and partnership leader Mike Alton, and each week I sit down with another agency owner just like you, talking about some of the biggest challenges they faced and how they overcame them. Find Social Pulse Podcast Agency Edition and subscribe on whatever podcast player you're listening to now.
Nathan, that is fantastic. What I'd like to do now is jump into my section. My section is about custom GPTs. And what I built along with my kids was my first stab at a custom GPT. It's called the Rock, Paper, Scissors Image Challenger. Just what you think. Basically, I go in and I upload an image. It says, please upload an image of your hand showing either rock, paper, scissors to start the game. If you need a reminder, rock is a closed fist, paper is an open hand, etc., etc. So it sort of explains the rules. So I go and I upload. In this case, it was a closed fist. And then what it did is it started to create its image answer. So here it is creating an image. What I find is that a lot of times the images aren't always the best. Like, yep, this is exactly what it's saying. So it does say paper, which is good, and the spelling is correct. But what you're going to find is that sometimes it doesn't create a great image of a rock, paper, or scissors, but it does tell you sort of the output. And then what you're also going to notice here is it kept the score for me. So this was just a real quick study of how to use a custom GPT. It was quirky. It took longer than I thought, but I think the more effort that I put into this type of thing, the better output I'm going to get. all I really wanted to do was early on is just to try to see how multimodal this could possibly be. And so while I didn't use video or audio, I did try to use pictures, and it sort of accomplished what I was looking for.
Nicely done. I'm impressed. That's a cool custom GPT.
Yeah. Our audience has no idea that we're using the power of post-production right now. So, so let me tell you how I did it. I basically have a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old. 5-year-old understands the power of rock, paper, scissors and wants to play me endlessly. And that just gave me this idea. Hey, what if I build a machine? I always thought it'd be kind of funny if you had an iPhone app and I had one and you had one, and we do rock, paper, scissors, you would select one and you would turn yours around. I always thought that was an app that should have been created, but who knows whether it would ever monetize. So I built it as a custom GPT. And here was my conclusion is that it's early days of these custom GPTs. I've looked at all of them that are on the market right now, and I have not seen one that's like, oh my gosh, that tool that an everyday man built is now going to be a critical part of my business. Like, I have multiple apps in the App Store that have helped my business grow. The GPTs aren't there yet, but you can see that the ingredients are absolutely there. But what I happen to believe is that it's very possible that the future of websites and web development is that you're going to come to faratech.com, and if you want questions about my business, like, why click on my navigation, go to pages on my website, and if I went to Home Depot and I just wanted to get a light bulb, and there was a woman at the store that could literally just hand me the light bulb that I want and could answer any questions about that light bulb, do you think I'd take any joy about walking down the aisles? I really believe that there's going to be a day where you will go to brands' websites and you will just literally just ask them qualifying questions in their own GPT. Like, their homepage will be a GPT. And the answers that I'm curious about is whether once they start feeding it in text format, generative image, and generative video, is that sort of the future of the way brands will communicate? And so we will be having SEO conversations, but it'll be more like AI conversations. And these conversations are literally going to be like, what do you have to put into your GPT so that when either someone comes from ChatGPT or they go to your website, how are you going to target your GPTs to get the right answer to them? And how do you pre-train your own personal AI to still carry your brand, communicate effectively, and do all those things? I think that's what a GPT-5 or a Gemini multimodal will do, is that we're going to start to look back and be like, I don't think blue links and going to websites and moving around is the future of where marketing is going. So I think GPTs are the future of engagement.
Yeah, if that's true, then we'll have, this was the era when people pre-recorded or pre-wrote content, and that was called a content marketing program. And in the future, we'll live in an era when you just interact and get answers and insights in real time that are created on demand based on a knowledge base published by that brand. And so, it's just it's a way to say, you have to have, today you have to have written or recorded the answer. In the future, the answer will be generated on demand. But the issue there is that for the answer to be generated on demand, you need a lot of training content, which means that really benefits the brand that had a ton of content marketing in this era.
And that's what you were saying. It's just how I think that the result that you get out is going to be equal or greater to, or less than rather, than the amount of content that you put in. So in the future, you will still need thought leadership. You will still need engagement. You'll still need to construct arguments. You'll still need to create utilities. I think the delivery method will change, but I still think marketers are going to have a place to do what they do best. And it's literally the two things you guys both said today. So one was Nathan was hey, start with value. All right. If there was no SEO, start with value. You were saying you got to dump a lot of content in to get a really great result. In the future, if the delivery method changes, both of you guys are still right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm starting to realize okay, if I want to make an Andy GPT, someone emailed me a question. It's hey, I've got a blog and the URL structure is weird. It's a new job. I don't know. Should we change the URL structure? And I'm hey, listen, so that's not a major search ranking factor. It only matters if there's a lot of search optimized content there. Is there keyword focused content on this blog? Because if not, don't worry about URL structure. It's like a 150 word answer to a common question. I copied that out of my email and put it into a document that I can use to later train Andy GPTs because, so it's not just content marketing. We all produce, this is Ann's book, Everybody Writes. We all produce content all the time. What we need is like to build a pipe from our sales team's email, set mail folder into, our websites or our bots or our, synthetic versions of our brand. So I think that the right way to train these things in the future will go beyond just content marketing. And we'll start to realize like every recorded Zoom call could have been, can be used as training, rights, legal language allowing, to train AIs to answer questions in the voice and in the topics of our brands.
Yeah, well, it's funny we're talking about this because I actually had someone reach out to me, and it was a cold outreach, and they said, "Hey, Nathan, I actually scraped all of your YouTube content and created a custom GPT that would answer questions based on your content." I was like, "Oh, I didn't really give you permission to do that, so that's kind of weird that you did that." So I'm kind of viewing it from a very different perspective, which is theft is going to be just constant because what happens when I can just be Andy, right? I'm just going to be Andy. I'm going to scrape all your stuff. I'm going to input it just like you described, and I'm going to become Andy for today. Oh no, I'm going to become Chris today. I'm going to be Joe Rogan tomorrow, right? What's going to stop anyone from doing it? And I think, the other part of it too, not to be my conspiracy theory, kind of like futuristic thinking, but if we do get to artificial general intelligence or super intelligence, like, will our answers even matter anymore? Because if it can answer, if we're feeding it, we're giving it the inputs, we're training the AI, and eventually the AI will be smarter than us. And if it gets to that point, then maybe the pendulum will swing and people will say, "No, I just want to talk to Andy because he's such a nice guy."
Well,
yeah.
I'll skip the second question, but answer the first. And the answer to the first is, hey, what if other people steal all your content and build a synthetic version of you? That goes back to your very first point, Nathan, which is build a brand. If you're talking to a bot that is me, you trust it because it's me. If you put a different face on my content, people won't maybe believe it as much. That's the power of brand. That gets back to the value of having built a brand and a reputation and being memorable and word of mouth and referrals and all the knowledge base and all the stuff you can train it on. We trust that company. We trust that person. I believe in Nathan. I took his course. So other people can go steal your content, but your face is what is the package for that, right? Logos, pathos, ethos. It's the package for that makes people believe it. So I think that ties in beautifully to your very first point, which is about the value of, memorability and building brands.
And we won't get it into deep fakes though. So
that's a problem. We'll avoid that.
That's right. Well, listen, this was a very fast hour. Thank you so much, Nathan, for joining us. I really appreciate it. Real quick, plug your academy. I'm part of it. I'm a fan. Tell our audience how they can find out about you and your academy and the other things you do.
Yeah, I mean, I won't sell you super hard. I mean, the academy is pretty simple. I'll just say it's different, right? And this kind of goes along with the pendulum swinging. And for us, when I first launched my academy, I had this idea that I just wanted to build the most scalable training program that exists. So I would sell it, people would go through it, wish you the best of luck. You can figure it out on your own, but here's the blueprint. That was fine. People bought it, people got results. But then I realized that there was a problem. The problem is that most people don't actually complete training. And in fact, if you look at the data, it's roughly about 10% of people finish courses online.
Oh no.
Yeah. So my training was a whopping about I think it was 15%. So, just to give you an idea, and actually I forgot what the percentage is, but a certain percentage never even logged in. So they bought it. They didn't ask for a refund, but they didn't even log in. And so for me, when I found that out, I was devastated because I was like, wow, if they just went through the training, they would get results. And I thought that's what they wanted. Very confusing for me. So I decided to scrap my old program and rebuild it from scratch. And the funny thing is, going back to the theme of today, which is more personal touch, more, human interaction, I integrated, because my partner's great idea, are these weekly coaching calls. So every Tuesday and Thursday I get on, and Chris has seen it, I get on these calls. Sometimes they're an hour and 45 minutes. And I just answer every single question. I don't stop until every question is answered. And I think I'm getting close to 300 of these coaching calls.
It's awesome.
And I just
Capture
cannot
that training data. Capture that training data.
We do. We transcribe everything, so we'll put it into a GPT. But I just cannot express how much of a difference it's made, not just for my business, but just relationships with my clients, and just everything has gotten better across the board. And there's also some other secondary stuff, like I feel more comfortable on camera, and there's a lot of other good things that have happened as well. But that's like, there's a lot of SEO courses out there and a lot of training programs, but like that's what I believe is our differentiator. Like I personally don't think there's a lot of people that would be willing to do that. And I get it. It's not the easiest thing for me to do twice a week, but I've just seen the fruits of that labor, and it's been just so beneficial for not just myself and my business, but also the outcomes for the clients. Like our completion rate now is 80%, as opposed to 10%. So cool. Just something, said I wasn't going to pitch it very hard, but there you go. So,
there you go.
Yeah.
No, awesome. Fantastic. I hope you're enjoying today's podcast. Now, please take a moment to hear a word from our sponsor.
Listen, if you're interested in learning about new tools and exciting solutions in marketing technology, there's a new podcast out just for you. The Martech Show, featuring agency owner and technology futurist Robin Diamond alongside myself, award-winning marketer and partnership leader Mike Alton. Each week, we'll introduce you to a fascinating MarTech tool and do a deep dive into the problems it solves. They also dish on what's shiny and new in the industry so you can stay informed on the developments that matter to you. Find the MarTech Show and subscribe on whatever podcast player you're listening on now.
Well, listen, thank you so much for joining us today. Andy, as always, thank you so much. And to our listeners, please know that we're trying to bring content and thought leaders like this every single month. So please like, subscribe, and do all that stuff. And we will see you next time.